Immerse in the profound wisdom of the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, ancient verses, revered as a pinnacle of devotion and spiritual awareness. Under the guidance of His Holiness Swami Jyotirmayananda, plunge into the infinite ocean of this revered scripture. Discover its hidden truths. Embrace its transformative power. Awaken to new realms of divine love and spiritual awareness. The depths are calling. The deeper you dive, the more treasures you'll discover. And now, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, Chapter 2, Section 2, Sutra number is 56 of the data. Bhaktya bhajanopasanghara gaunya parayayitat ketutvat. Because in the Gita, the word bhajan has been used as concluding a statement by applying bhakti to it in the secondary sense. Secondary devotion is the means for attaining the supreme devotion. In simple terms, focus is on secondary devotion, different forms of devotional practices or different forms of yoga practices that help one towards the unfoldment of divine love within one's heart. Divine love is not created, it's already there. But there are different methods adopted in the scriptures. The primary process is increasing love for God. That in order to allow that central flow of love towards God manifest, you need to fill your life with various sadhanas, disciplines. This has been given in Gita chapter 9, and the discussion in the sutra is focused on the contents of that particular chapter. I will just give you summarized version. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajatyantanyana manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O Partha, the great souls, taking refuge in my divine nature, worship me at all times, knowing me to be the imperishable nature of all beings. Here the emphasis is on jnana, knowledge. Allow your intellect to understand that all beings have proceeded from Brahman, the Absolute, and they are sustained by Brahman. Into Brahman they dissolve. The more your intellect grasps that God, Brahman, the Absolute, alone is real, then it's easy to allow your heart to flow towards God. Brahman, the Absolute Self, is the embodiment of bliss. So intellectually you bring about reflective process to understand Brahman. That process is subservient to profound devotion. That's what the saying is. Mukti bhakti ki dasi hai. Liberation is the maid servant of devotion. Liberation that is targeted by spiritual aspirants, by studying Vedanta philosophy. It requires a strict discipline of the intellect to understand that Brahman is the source and the entire world is superimposed on Brahman like snake on the rope. Intellectually, you may be very clear. You must understand that if your heart remains thirsty, your spiritual movement is lopsided. So therefore, consider that gaining insight into the non-dual self as a secondary form, it's helping your devotion. To the extent it does, it's meaning. Satatam kirtiyanto mam yatantascha dridha brata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Glorifying me at all times. As you get more deeply involved with that understanding that God is the reality. Always remember that statement made by Hanuman to Rama. Rama asks Hanuman, how am I related to you? And Hanuman said, Deha buddhya tu dasoham. To the extent I view myself as the body, I am a slave. God is the master. So handle that aspect of reality in your day-to-day life. All things are handled by God. You are just a slave. The slave has an advantage. The master has all the headache. Slave simply goes on doing. And to give you a parable, to understand the beauty of slave attitude. There was a master, there was an actual slave relation in 16th century. And there was a slave who worked very hard to please the master. And master was extremely pleased. So one day he came into the garden, called his slave, and he sat under an apple tree. The tree was filled with apples. The master took one of the best apple, plucked it, and he had a little knife and he gradually peeled it, sliced it. How many? I don't know. And then he started giving little pieces to the slave with his own hand. Each time he ate, he was so thrilled, overwhelmed with good feeling. He ate 99% of it. A little was left. The master went on looking at his face. Suddenly he realized he is enjoying so much. This fruit must be especially delicious. It's in his mouth. But it is sour. He spits it out. He says to the slave, how is it? You didn't tell me it was sour. And the slave says, it comes from your hand. It's touched by your hand. All these sweet ones are just stale from my point of view. If they are not touched by your hand, this is a special touch of yours. It adds into it something so divine. Try to work out a philosophy about it. When you develop slave attitude, I am a slave, God is the master, then you don't look at God, taste it, what you are giving to me. But the idea He is giving to you, all situations and circumstances are being directed by the touch of God's hand. That you have to discover. That requires certain practice. prayer, japa, meditation, good association. Try to go on understanding that all situations, positive, negative, all have a divine touch behind it. The more you become aware of that touch, bitterness aspect moves away. You are so much thrilled that God is giving me the opportunity. The greatest of opportunity, you are a human being, capable of attaining enlightenment. And the wondrous world has been presented for you. World of boundless dimensions. And a karmic process has been lined up for you. All that God has done. And therefore, every situation that comes to you is coming from His hand. Little slice of the apple. Look at His hand, not the taste of the. Create a magical bhavana within yourself, a magical feeling that transforms the taste into something divine. When you begin to experience love of God underlying all situations, then your mind has no room for acquiring stressful impression. Your mind is always relaxed. That's the goal. And goal has to be worked for, strived. So deha buddhya tu dasoham. As long as you view yourself the body, follow this philosophy of that slave. Jiva buddhya tvadanshata. As you begin to understand you are a spirit, soul, then try to also understand that soul is a ray of God. Therefore, the possibilities for a ray of God are endless. You see the sun reflected in a jar. Reflected sun is so little. But when you go after the source, reflected sun is related to the sun. If that understanding dawns within you, then it becomes a profound mission in your life to bring out divine qualities in your life, to enrich yourself with Daivi Sampat, divine qualities, things that are not easy to attain in the world, rather impossible. The help of God, you can attain them. And there is nothing impossible. Boundless control of mind, the ability to forgive, the ability to be patient, to have compassion, the ability to have serenity of mind in all conditions. All these become possible because these are inherent in your soul, the soul being a ray of God. So life is a constant exploration of God's glory and a process of constant enrichment. But at the deepest level, there is no difference. Once the ego sense dissolves, if you come to a state of absolute surrender, like a river that has entered the ocean, then there is absolutely no difference. No difference between the river and the ocean. No difference between the reflected sun and the sun. No difference with the soul within you and Brahman. If these three attitudes are brought in your daily life, then you are glorifying God at all times. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhabrata. Steadfast in great vows. Great vows are described as yamas and niyamas in Raja Yoga, do's and don'ts. Of those great vows, three are most important. Ahimsa, Satyam, Brahmacharya. Ahimsa, non-violence. No matter what, I will not inflict injury on anybody. A vow that's conditional is not called a great vow. Conditional means in a good society, I will not be angry. While in a temple, I will not show my temper. On the special days, I will observe control over the mind. Then you are not practicing great vows, you are practicing good vows. The great vows are when it is unrestricted at all times. Satyam again, truthfulness. But you must understand each vow has 3 levels: mind, speech, action. In action and speech level, you have to adapt and adjust. But at a deeper level, you are absolutely free to hold the truth in your heart. Don't justify yourself when you know it is wrong. You may say, why don't we practice the truth all the time? It's easily said. When it comes to speech, there is a regulation, a law. Satyam vada, priyam vada. Speak the truth. Condition. Think about it. Is it going to hurt the feeling of a person? If it is, manipulate how to talk, bring out the truth, but in a gentle and pleasant manner. Navada satyam apriyam. Say, I am such a devotee of truth. It doesn't matter whether people like it or not, I'm going to say. The scriptural teaching is navada, don't speak. If that's the way you are acting, your truth will be not real truth. Because behind that speaking the truth, you have the intention to hurt people. So it is not real truth. Truth never hurts. The source of all compassion. It's like the shining sun. But if you are expressing truths in a wrong way, then that is not the practice of truth. Satyam vada. So that's regarding the vow of truth, the vow of non-violence. That again, in your thought, you must go on developing an understanding that all living beings are like waves in the ocean of I am. I am not limited to the body. In a profound level, you are the entire cosmic existence. This, of course, is sublimest ideal before every individual. And if you study your instinct deep down, you can understand how, when you see some cruelty done to a human being, to animal, to a bird, why should your heart flutter? There is something deep, a deeper unity. If you pursue it profoundly, you discover that you are not a segregated life confined to the body. At deeper level, you are one with cosmic life. Therefore, any injury that you inflict on others, it is because of lack of spiritual strength. Put it in a very simple way, Ramana Maharshi gave the thieves entered his ashram and they created a little chaos. And disciples woke up and went out. They said to Ramana Maharshi, their guru, that they are going to go after those thieves and thrash them and smash them. And Ramana Maharshi said, if your teeth bite the tongue, do you thrash your teeth? Do you say anything of that nature? Leave them. This needs to be understood, the feeling behind it. If the more you understand, you realize you are not living in a world pursuing your enemy and revenging upon the enemy. Rather, the real solution to all things that inflict pain on you, the solution is expansion of the heart, discovery that I am in all, resolving violence by love. That resolution is a powerful movement towards progress. But when violence and negative deeds are prevented, or rather treated with violence and with all sorts of negativity, when the world moves on the basis of swords and guns and bombs, as long as human beings are put into order because on the basis of nuclear bombs, a lot of attention is given how to create those bombs, how to get the permission to do so. You must realize all that energy that goes, the mind is bankrupt from the point of view of spiritual understanding. How can goodness be brought in the world? By demoniac methods. So there is always a challenge within the heart, in the heart of everyone, to conquer hatred by love. However, all these vratas are not little, they are very profound. Therefore, you make progress gradual. If last year you used to be angry and your anger has stayed on for 6 days, and this year it stays on only once in a month, you are making good progress. And a person, when he becomes angry, breaks down the doors and things of that nature. And now when he becomes angry, only shouts. That is progress. A greater progress, there is no shouting either. But you never know what he's doing in the mind. The ideal, even in the mind, only compassion. Anyone who is behaving abruptly, it is because something is lacking. The world is a kind of a big hospital. And everyone acts due to various limitations, karmas. This being so, your heart has to develop super compassion as a doctor, dealing with patients. So all this is called great vows. Brahmacharya, again, how to handle the sex aspect that has its own purpose. You create progeny. On the other hand, if it becomes a means to empty pleasure, it creates lots of perversions. Control over that and sublimating, that's called brahmacharya. But brahmacharya in a broad sense is not just that. It is removing all the impurities of the mind. Anger, hate, greed, jealousy. All these are called malas, nalos. Your mind has to come to nirmala state. And that again is a tremendous task. It cannot be done in a day or two. But nevertheless, That is the goal. All these practices are secondary to the development of devotion. Jnana yajnena chapanya yajanto mamupasate ekatvena pritaktve bahudha vishwato mukham. Others worship me with jnana yajna in the form of oneness. That is, jnana yajna is you offer the awareness of diversity into the revelation of non-duality. When you are experiencing dream, you have entered into a world of multiplicity. As you begin to wake up, the entire dream world is offered into the fire of revelation. And don't even see any smoke coming out of it. This is a profound offering. Misunderstanding is offered in the fire of understanding. Darkness is offered in the fire of light. That's the highest form of offering. The greatest aspect of devotion, therefore, is expressed in a very simple way. Mahatma Gandhi was very fond of. Sabko sanmati de Bhagwan. O God, give good understanding to everyone. So once you have the right type of understanding, all the negative forces are offered into it and they dissolve and they vanish. Darkness vanishes fast. When you deal with your problems without deep understanding, the problems simply go on existing, they become more and more complex. So people worship me with jnana yajna, with the sacrifice of knowledge, or with a sense of separation, which I have described, the feeling of master and the slave, or with the manifold aspects of my being. Now this is called Vibhuti Yoga. As you are developing devotion to God, try to understand the entire world is filled with the glory of God. Your mind should become increasingly aware that God is everywhere. In the beginning, allow your mind to go after things of the world that are impressive for your mind. The sun is very impressive, so think of the glory of God manifesting as the sun. You look up to the sun and your mind turns to God. How wonderful. Look at the ocean, your mind turns to God. Majestic things come down to even flowers. Behold the lilies of the field. Behold the roses, how they blossom. And as you advance, you realize internally and externally you are in the ocean of divine glory. Behold your body. How many works are done by your physical body, your nervous system, and who is working behind them? A love of God advances in your heart. You begin to see God in the creation. This is expressed by Kabira. Lali mere lal ki, jit dekhun tit lal. Beauty of my beloved. That first your heart became drawn to the divine beloved. And then the devotee sees his beauty everywhere. Jit dekhun tit lal. Wherever I turn, Krishna is behind the name and form. Or Rama smiling behind. In every situation. Lali dekhan machali. The more you become involved with experiencing the presence of God, soon you realize your ego itself has vanished. You enter into the bed and you appreciate the wonderful blankets. And the more you relax, everything around you is relaxing. Suddenly you are lost. You enter deep sleep. Nothing. If the world can give you the same type of feeling, then the experiencer has been swept into samadhi, into divine ecstasy. Ego doesn't exist. And that's your reality. You are not an individual being. You are the ocean of divine presence. You are God alone is, Brahman alone is. Aham kratuh aham yajna swadha maham aha aushadam mantroham ahamevajyam aham agni aham bhutam. This chapter in the Gita is very profound. I am adopting the ritual performance. The Vedas give so many rituals, and rituals consist of different items. I am yajna. Yajna aspect is spirit of dispassion develops within you, and a special emphasis is on serving humanity. I am swadha. Swadha means a sense of self-dependence. It implies that when you look at your problem, your worries, your anxieties, the source is within you. And you have the key to alter those inner conditions. You are responsible. You don't give responsibility to others. Whenever negative things happen, it's because of somebody. Positive things happen, for me, I did it. Therefore, there builds up in the mind a sense of dependence. I have to depend on so many people, go on creating, but develop sense of delusion, moha. I have so many people to help me. That's an illusion. I am the medicinal herb. All experiences in the world are kind of medicine. I'm giving advanced meaning. I am the sacred mantra, the mantra in which you are initiated, or simply Om. I am the clarified butter that is poured in fire. Clarified butter is pure feeling. That's why Krishna used to steal it. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Those who worship me by meditating upon me with a vision of non-separateness. That vision I have described, Lali Mere Lal. You went on looking at the beauty of God, and you suddenly slipped into that ocean. You have no individuality. That's the vision of non-separateness. If that is your target, then you are ceaselessly devoted to me. Your movement towards God is ceaseless, perpetual. For such a devotee, I look after their yoga and kshema. Yoga means things that you need, you want to bring to yourself. Mind is always involved in two ways. How to attain things that you don't have, and how to sustain and protect things that you have. 50% of energy goes in how to get it. The other 50% goes how to hold it. And your mind is not left for anything else. But when you have developed that subtle sense of inner unity with God, even in a more workable way, feel you are a baby, a child. God is mother. A child doesn't carry any worry or anxiety. Everything happens by miracle. To the child, mother can do anything. But here is a divine mother. So once you have developed that type of sense, a child can't live without mother. This devotee cannot live without God. It's God's responsibility to hold the child. And that is deep down becomes your faith and trust. This is a process towards absolute unity. As you develop that type of relationship, as you develop that type of sense of inner unity, you don't have to worry. Self-effort will continue. Things that you have to attain, you will do everything possible from your point of view. You exercise your self-effort. But you don't exercise it with stress in your mind. How quickly can I get it? Am I going to get it? But you have a profound understanding, insight, faith that God, who has led you through countless embodiments when you had no body. He sustained you even while you are in body. Many parts of your body, even the brain, is in a delicate situation. You can't live without that profound trust that God is sustaining you with profound love. If that begins to enter your heart, then you don't worry. You simply go on doing things, and you, by your sadhana, by your prayer, you invoke God's inspiration. Inspire me to do the right thing. And as you go on doing it, you face all situations, circumstances as His gift, slices of His apple. And thus you are led to the highest goal, supreme devotion. The sense of individuality disappears. You become nimitta matram bhavasavyasat. You become just an instrument in divine hand. That again is figurative. You become a flute. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyu pahritam ashnami prayatatmanah. Whoever offers even a leaf or a flower or a fruit or just water with devotion to me, I accept that offering of love from my pure-hearted devotee. Another point is brought out. Progress on the path of devotion is not dependent upon ostentatious worship. In order to do very ostentatious worship, you have to be very rich. You have to bring in many things. You have to invite lots of people. And the temple bell has to go on ringing from morning till night. And people are to be fed again and again. You count the number, thousands have been fed. So worship goes on. This is dramatized in the Bhagavad Purana, in other Puranas. King Yudhishthira performed a sacrifice. So glamorous, and everybody appreciated it. At that time, Arjuna was walking with Krishna. They were just strolling somewhere. And as they were doing, Krishna had a mystic garland with bells. And whenever anyone did profound act of goodness, very profound, then one of the bell will ring. And Arjuna was very curious to know how things happen in the. But at this time, suddenly all the bells started ringing. When Yudhishthira performed the yajna, at that time one bell rang. But now after the performance, Arjuna, who was feeling so proud that he was his brother, did the greatest yajna and he rang one bell. And now as he walks, suddenly all the bells are ringing. Arjuna said, who is the performer of this most amazing yajna? And Krishna says, there is a saintly person who has picked up so many food materials that have been thrown out from that big work of charity. And he has started eating it. But prior to eating, he has offered it to me. The offering he has made with such intensity that it excelled all that Yudhishthira did. You are being led to understand the importance of bhavana, feeling, the intensity of love with which you do, that enhances. So therefore this verse says, whoever offers even a leaf or a flower or a fruit or just water, also the message behind it, all that you offer should be viewed by you as a leaf, a flower, a fruit. Do not bring to your mind a material value. I accept that offering of love from my pure-hearted devotee. Now, to make it easier, yat karoshi yadashnasi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. You don't even have to go after bringing a leaf or a flower. All these are highly figurative. O son of Kunti, whatever you eat, your eating itself is an offering to God within you. Whatever you offer as an oblation, whatever you give, whatever austerity you practice, all realities that you face day by day, offer that to me. All these are deeply involved with the spiritual process leading to supreme devotion. This is what Shandilya is pointing out. This particular chapter is a reference source for these sutras. And with this we conclude. Om Shanti Shanti.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of spiritual growth. It's an honor to learn from the wisdom of Swami Jyotirmayananda. As we part for now, remember, the quest does not end. Take time to reflect on today's insights and integrate them into your life. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, stay present. The light within you is always shining.